In 2024, the world saw amazing innovations like flying cars and major breakthroughs in medicine. Yet some communities in Africa still hold on to traditional ways of life, far from modern influences. These groups preserve unique and intricate cultural practices that might shock outsiders. Today, we'll dive into the life of a tribe that believes they are descendants of gods. We'll find out why some women in this community cut off men's fingers to make necklaces and discuss initiation rituals that involve circumcision without any pain relief. On the vast African continent, about 5 million people still live in tribes considered isolated, with little to no contact with the global society. These communities, totaling around 3,000 distinct groups, resist external influences and preserve their ancient traditions. Often labeled as savage, these tribes face significant challenges like illiteracy and limited access to healthcare, making them highly vulnerable to common diseases that can be deadly. Moreover, interactions with outsiders can introduce new viruses, prompting some countries to limit contact to protect these populations. All these tribes share one common trait. They reject the comforts of modern life, deeply valuing the reverence of their ancestors and deities. Members of these communities sustain themselves through traditional methods like hunting, fishing, foraging, and raising animals. Moreover, many of these tribes are quite resistant to the presence of outsiders, which can make their customs and traditions hard to understand for those on the outside. Scientific curiosity has increasingly led researchers to venture among these communities, despite the risks, including possible tragic conflicts. The interest lies in learning more about their unique cultures, filled with traditions and practices passed down from generation to generation. The information gathered is invaluable to science, shedding light on ways of life profoundly different from our own. In some remote communities, the lifestyle is so primitive that it becomes a fertile ground for scientific research and historical studies. These investigations are crucial for enriching our understanding of distant and ancient cultures. Today, we're going to explore some fascinating tribes in Africa, including some known for their aggressive nature. Focusing on the Nuba tribe located in Sudan, its roughly 10,000 members are often referred to as mountain people. Distinct from other African groups, the Nuba are celebrated for their spiritual purity. The first explorers who met them in the last century described the mountain Nubians as beings of touching innocence, akin to grandchildren in their carefree and joyful demeanor. These inhabitants laugh easily, enjoy themselves generously, and radiate a robust zest for life. In the Nuba tribe, envy is an unknown feeling and solidarity is the norm, with all members treated as equals, without any status hierarchies. They have a unique marital tradition that reflects aspects of a matriarchy. In this ritual, it's the women, described as slender and beautiful, who choose their partners, reversing the role traditionally seen in many cultures. The selection process takes place during a unique dance ritual. As they dance, if a woman is interested in a man, she places her foot on his shoulder. He doesn't see her face, and his personal preference doesn't influence the choice. The dance is just the beginning of a long union process. After being chosen, the man must build a house, a task that can take from several months to a year. During this time, he and the woman remain apart. It's common for the couple to already have a child during this construction period, but completing the house finally establishes them as a family. The lives of the inhabitants of an isolated tribe change drastically with the arrival of tourists. They, who once lived in harmony, were introduced to the concept of money, sparking internal disputes and the first divorces. The young people, in search of better opportunities, migrated to cities, bringing back unknown diseases to the tribe, which had previously lived without envy or material conflicts. Furthermore, the Maasai, another local tribe, began to dominate the Datogas, viewed by them as inferior due to their peaceful nature. The Maasai believe they are entitled to all the riches of the world, as per the will of their supreme god, Ngai. This leads them to view cattle raiding from other tribes as a divine duty, a belief not even the government has managed to counter, leaving the Datogas unprotected and at the mercy of the Maasai. The image of the Maasai, widely spread through colorful magazines, movies, and photos around the world, has made them emblems of African traditionalism and icons of resistance against modern culture. The figure of a Maasai warrior with his vivid red blankets and bead adornments captures a romantic vision of the contemporary noble savage, a fascinating figure for tourists. Maasai social organization is based on age groups. From an early age, children start tending to the animals, herding lambs and calves. Additionally, the Maasai maintain a series of traditional rituals. One such ritual includes a passage ceremony where a boy dresses as a woman, symbolizing his transformation and maturation within the community. It's common practice in some cultures to use strict methods to increase children's courage and resilience, including physical discipline from a very young age. Girls are involved in household chores and meal preparation under their mother's supervision. Every 15 years, the tribe holds a rite of passage for a new generation of warriors, marked by an intense circumcision ritual without anesthesia for youths between 12 and 25 years old. During the long recovery period of up to 8 months, the youths wear black clothes and isolate themselves in a settlement built by their mothers, where they are responsible for their own protection. Although this tribe adopts a very traditional lifestyle focused on livestock, gathering, and hunting, they do not completely renounce modern conveniences. Separated by mountains and located at the junction of the borders of Kenya, Ethiopia, and Sudan, lives the small and lesser-known Surma tribe. The Mursi tribe lives in a hard-to-reach area and shows strong resistance to interactions with the outside world. They are notoriously uninterested and even hostile to contact with strangers, rejecting almost all forms of modernity, with the notable exception of automatic weapons, which they use to defend against attacks from neighboring tribes. The Mursi pride themselves on their independence and self-sufficiency, claiming to live freely, without the need for leadership or rules imposed by others. In contrast, there's also the fascinating mythology of the Surma tribe, whose stories about their origins have been shared with researchers from Iceland. These accounts reveal a rich oral tradition that captures the tribe's unique identity and beliefs, contrasting with their strong seclusion and resistance to external influences. Researchers spent over 6 months getting coherent accounts about the origins of the Surma tribe, who initially were quite reticent and distant. According to the myth shared, the Surmas believe they came from the sky. They tell that they lived with the god Tugoi until one day he opened a hole in the clouds and lowered ropes for them to descend to earth. However, a woman ended up breaking these ropes, closing the path back to the sky. This central myth reinforces the Surma belief that they are not originally from Earth, but rather celestial visitors whose arrival was marked by an accident that isolated them here. The Wuhaner tribe lives in the fertile Oma River Valley and is known for their love of colorful clothing and elaborate ornaments. One of the most striking aspects of their culture is the wedding ritual, which includes painful practices. Girls marry at 12 years old, and during the ceremony, they wear special collars with a hole through which the husband can insert a stiff rod to apply regular and painful punishments, a practice that, surprisingly, is valued by both partners. The wedding ceremony also involves an endurance test where young men whip the women with long rods, while the women try to provoke the aggression to receive as many blows as possible. The resulting scars are seen as symbols of status and attractiveness within the tribe. The Wuhaner have a population of about 40,000 people, with livestock farming as their main economic activity. They also have unique practices like running over the backs of cattle, a rite of passage that a young man must complete to earn the right to marry. Women and children live in dwellings with pointed roofs that include a fireplace for sleeping, while men spend the night in separate holes from the main house. The men cover their bodies with dirt, which restricts normal breathing during specific rituals. They are responsible for hunting and defending their homes. As for marriage, communication with their wives is primarily for reproductive purposes. A man can marry up to 4 women, and the order in which they married is symbolized by the number of rings each wears around her neck. The women of this tribe have the freedom to form bonds among themselves. Compared to other tribes, these individuals seem less emotionally expressive and have a more primitive way of life. Let's dive into the fascinating culture of the Bushmanas, a group of indigenous people from southern Africa known for their rich traditions and unique lifestyle. These groups are known for their deep connection with nature, which is reflected in their belief that the Earth's resources are a shared good. This explains why, during hunting trips, it's common for them to capture animals in territories also used by neighboring peoples. However, this practice has progressively pushed the Ushmenas into more arid and forested areas. Ushmena women have distinct physical characteristics, especially after the birth of their first child, when significant changes occur in their bodies. In their social structure, the elder plays a leadership role, although this position does not confer material privileges or absolute authority. The local cuisine is equally intriguing, featuring Bushman rice, an exotic dish made from ant larvae, demonstrating their sustainable use of natural resources. Within the Bushman culture, a community rich in herbal knowledge stands out. Using native herbs, these masters of nature create infusions and remedies to ward off dangerous animals and treat illnesses. Music and dance are vital elements in their traditions, with African rhythms that lead them into trance states. On these occasions, they produce expressive paintings on cave walls, depicting scenes from their daily life and spiritual beliefs. The social structure of the Bushmen is based on family groups, where there are no centralized leadership figures, but rather healers who have deep spiritual connections, capable of invoking rain and curing diseases through their rituals. Marriages among them are usually monogamous, although polygamy is also practiced, and the tradition of working in exchange for a bride was once common. Bushman narratives are rich and varied, often compared to fables and myths where animals are the main characters. The grasshopper, for example, is a recurring character in their stories, credited with grand deeds such as creating the sun, the moon, and various animals. The Bushmen also name celestial formations after animals, such as calling Orion's belt turtle females, illustrating the deep interconnection between their culture and the natural world. There are numerous tribes around the world that remain almost entirely detached from modern life, some of which are known for their ferocity. However, not all of them fit this stereotype. A notable example is the Datogas, a community that values peace above all and views murder as an unforgivable act, punishable by expulsion from the tribe. This peaceful stance makes the Datogas valuable allies to their neighbors, including the Maasai, known for their aggressive and warlike nature. For centuries, the Maasai have invaded Datoga territories, taking prisoners and stealing cattle. In response to this ongoing hostility, in the 18th century, the Datogas decided to migrate north in search of safety, only to encounter other hostile tribes, forcing them to move even further. Unlike other African tribes that have adopted modern weapons like Kalashnikov rifles, the Datogas maintain older traditions using spears and bows, but exclusively for hunting. They also distance themselves from common practices among other tribes, such as war painting, preferring to keep a more discreet and peaceful profile in their interactions. The Datogas have a complex and selective relationship with modernity. They generally avoid many aspects of modern civilization, with the notable exception of consuming alcoholic beverages. During celebrations, it's common for them to drink excessively, which sometimes leads to fights, though these are always unarmed. Despite this apparent rejection of the modern world, the Datogas are not completely averse to external contact. They warmly welcome tourists, sell handicrafts and souvenirs, using this interaction to generate significant income. Hospitality is a deeply rooted value in Datoga culture. They treat visitors with great respect and admiration, often offering them lodging and showing extreme generosity. The tribe's traditions are rigidly preserved, setting them apart from neighboring groups that may have modernized some of their customs. The Datogas still follow ancestral practices such as belief in spirits and polygamy, with men having multiple wives, resulting in large families ranging from 10 to 40 members. This maintenance of old customs stands out as a central aspect of their cultural identity. The Mursi tribe of Ethiopia is known for being more aggressive and armed compared to their Nuba neighbors. On some occasions, excessive alcohol consumption leads to violent behavior, where serious physical conflicts can occur among its members. It is estimated that about 6,000 Mursis reside in this region, maintaining traditions and rituals that honor particular conceptions about death. Women in the tribe play important roles in medicine and shamanism, and many Mursis believe in predicting future events by observing the stars. A distinctive cultural practice involves the body modification of women. who from childhood have a stick inserted into their lower lip, with the diameter gradually increased over the years. On their wedding day, this stick is replaced by a plate that can reach up to 12 inches in diameter. The Mursis also have a unique spiritual view, considering themselves as dark spirits sent to earth by the god of death, Yamda. This belief reflects the depth of their spiritual traditions and the importance they place on the rituals they practice. Many of these communities maintain a defensive stance toward strangers, which can pose risks to unsuspecting visitors. Thus, when exploring areas with such diverse cultures, it's crucial to proceed with caution and respect. Thanks for joining me today, and see you at our next meeting.